Hey everyone, as always, Jarek here. Last week I covered Rainbow Six Vegas. This week I'm going to be covering Rainbow Six Vegas 2. It's a sequel in every sense of the word, so if you don't watch that first video, you may be a little lost. I would recommend clicking that up there, watching that video, then coming back here. As I mentioned in the previous video, Rainbow Six Vegas is what I grew my channel on. Both Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. I love these games, and I have a lot of positive to say about them, but I'm also going to have a lot of negative to say about them. No game is perfect, and the ones you love are the ones you're the harshest on. This leads me directly into the graphics. They're a little clearer than the first game, probably having to do with higher texture resolution, but for the most part they're the same. Which is even worse for Vegas 2 because this came out in 2008. Rainbow Six Vegas 1 was a bad looking game in 2006, using the same engine without really any upgrades in 2008 makes it look horrendous. To give you context, Call of Duty 4 came out the year before, Halo 3 came out the year before, Far Cry 2 came out the same year. Yeah, this game is really ugly, it's not pleasing to the eyes. It's also extremely buggy. But it's buggy in a way that's almost endearing. In fact, I used to have a series on Machinima, remember Machinima? Called Game Breakers, where I covered how broken games were. Really, it was just me showing off a bunch of really funny glitches, but Vegas and Vegas 2 were very frequent on that series. You unfortunately cannot see these videos anymore because they've been erased off the internet, like literally every video on Machinima. It's actually crazy how much internet history was lost when that happened. It's for the best that Machinima collapsed because boy, that was not a great company, but man, we lost so much content and so many good videos. Anyway, point being, the game is really buggy. Not in a way that will make the game unplayable, just in a way that is really funny and frequent enough to point out. Very frequent.
Oh, here they come.
Go in and check it out.
Charge! What the hell? What? On my screen, he had his back facing me, and his arms were coming out of his back holding a shotgun.
As I said, I don't really see this as a negative or a positive. It's almost part of the game's charm. Kind of like a Bethesda game. However, something that is a negative is that just like in Rainbow Six Vegas 1, you pretty much have no options when it comes to the graphics. This is the whole graphics menu. This is it. It still is at least better than what you got on consoles, as that was locked to 720p 30 FPS, and controls seem to have an input delay on everything, but still, there should be more options here. As you probably noticed, some of the animations look a little bit weird, and that's because someone found a workaround to increase your FOV, which you really need to do because it's incredibly narrow. Unfortunately, this is tied to the weapon FOV model, so you may see your shoulder here and there, and this may break a few animations. And by break, I mean you'll just see things that are supposed to be off screen. This Glock 18 reload will give you a good idea of how narrow the FOV was before. That magazine would have been out of the screen on the default FOV. Modders are working on a way to fix this, but as of right now, that's the only thing you can do if you want a higher FOV. Personally, I will take the higher FOV with a slight hindrance of seeing my shoulder every once in a while. Although I would recommend not trying to raise your FOV to the highest because it's vertical, and 100 vertical is way more than 100 horizontal, and I didn't realize that until I already changed it. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I would recommend staying around 70 to 75. Story! It's not really any better than the first game. In fact, it might be worse. In this game, you play as Bishop, another squad lead for Rainbow Six. The first mission takes place apparently before the events of Rainbow Six 3, which I find is interesting, although I don't really remember this. Your squad consists of the previous main character, Logan Keller, and Gabe, the character that ended up being a mole, leaking all the private information and turning on you in the first game. As a side note, it's always kind of frustrating when you know an enemy is a bad guy, but he's still on your team for some prequel thing happening in the game. You just want to shoot him, but you can't. Anyway, this level is a hostage rescue mission. You have orders to not fire until another squad shows up. Gabe purposely, literally says fuck it, opens fire, and results in someone dying. The main thing to take out of this level is that Gabe fucked up, Bishop covered for him, and Logan eventually got promoted to squad lead on his own. Much like in Vegas 1, everything from this point on to the end of the game means nothing. It's a bunch of tracking down terrorists doing things in Las Vegas until you get to the end of the game, where the story finally goes somewhere. It is interesting that you get to see Gabe revealing himself, turning his back on you in the moment, but he doesn't reveal his motives until literally the end of the game right before the credits after a terrible boss that I'll talk about later. His motive for all of these terrorist attacks, all these people dying, is because he's angry that Logan got promoted and that Bishop kept covering for his fuck-ups. I'm serious, that's his whole reason for this. He then tries to pull a gun out on you, you shoot him in the face, you get promoted, the game ends. So you managed to make a game where there are terrorist attacks in Las Vegas, and the story is this bad. I don't know if I'm impressed or insulted. The only real question I have is that what game has a worse story, Rainbow Six Vegas 1 or Vegas 2? In my opinion, they're both equally bad. Thankfully, only people that jerk off to the Second Amendment rights actually care about this story, so let's talk about the gameplay, the thing that people actually care about. Don't take that joke too seriously, I own a gun. I have to censor it because YouTube will demonetize me if I don't. As far as the gameplay goes, it's almost the same as Rainbow Six Vegas 1. It's still based around a cover system that puts you into third person when you take cover. Guns are still very lethal, meaning you die incredibly quick, and the loadout system allows you to choose from a wide variety of weapons and gadgets. Speaking of weapons, in my last video, I said this, so guns are incredibly important. All of the animations are accurate to how the real guns function. Some of them may not look particularly great, but most of them are pretty good for what's in the game. Some of them may not look particularly great, Seriously? I was specifically saying that animation is bad. The one animation that is bad, I pointed out. You had to scroll by a pinned comment that was literally saying, hey, the AK animation is bad, that's what I was saying, and you still left that comment. Why is it that no one on YouTube pays attention or knows how to listen? Every gun from the original Vegas comes back, and quite a few new ones were added in. The new SMGs are the AUG Para, Type 05, and Scorpion VZ83. I kinda hate how they chose the VZ83 model because a straight mag Scorpion looks weird, but I still love the Scorpion, so I am not going to complain that much. The new assault rifles are the AK-74U, FNC, M468, and L85. As a side note, Vegas has never had amazing animations by any means, but I feel these new weapons have worse animations than the original Vegas 1 guns. The L85 is the perfect example of this. What the hell is that? The new sniper rifles are the L96, because every game needs one, and an SR25, which is even more overpowered than the PSG-1. As a side note, snipers have a really big exploit in Rainbow Six Vegas 2. If you zoom while taking cover and then blind fire, it will be 100% accurate every time. To this day, it boggles my mind that this was never patched out or fixed. Blind firing while zooming isn't necessarily something that people won't end up doing, so it's really easy to find this out. The new shotgun is a Mossberg 500, which I'm personally happy about. I thought it was really strange that a Mossberg wasn't in a tactical shooter. I also thought the same thing about there being no M4 in the original Vegas. I do like that when they did add an M4, it was an M468 instead of just your standard M4A1. While we're around the subject of shotguns, the XM26 also got a huge nerf that it needed. It was incredibly overpowered in the first game. In Vegas 2, it saw its rate of fire slowed down drastically, which, again, it really needed this. Though it still didn't get fixed to be accurate to its real-life counterpart. This gun is not an automatic shotgun, it is a straight pull bolt action. Yes, a bolt action. I had quite a few keyboard gun experts in my comments trying to correct me, saying that bolt action shotguns don't exist. Yes they do. This one specifically, as I said, is a straight pull bolt action. That's how it works. And the last new weapon is a pistol, the P99, which I was excited about because I own a P99 and I love that pistol. Unfortunately, it's really bad in the campaign, one of the few actually bad guns in the game. This thing is a pea shooter that does very little damage. In the multiplayer, however, it can be quite useful as it's insanely accurate and is really good for getting headshots. Now the bigger thing when it comes to the weapons. Gun handling is quite a bit different. It still feels like Vegas 1, but there's a lot less of a punishment for shooting when moving. It's still far less accurate than taking cover or taking accurate shots, don't get me wrong. However, in Vegas 1, a lot of the weapons were kind of really inaccurate. The cone spread was a little too big. When you got used to it, you could work around it, but for the most part, sometimes it just felt like your bullets were going to miss due to RNG. This made some of the weapons almost unusable at higher levels of play, like say the Mach 11. In Vegas 2, this has been toned down a little bit in a way that I feel was actually perfect. It doesn't feel like Call of Duty where you can run around and be an idiot and get away with it. You still will get punished if you're not playing smart. However, it's not too punishing. I thought they got a good middle ground here. And the second really big change they made to this game is that they added sprint. Keep in mind, this game came out 1 year after Call of Duty 4, and they definitely made an attempt to speed the game up a little bit. I'm mixed on this because I like it for the campaign, but I don't really like it for the multiplayer. I do mean everything was faster. Even something as small as the pump animation is significantly faster in Vegas 2 than Vegas 1. And speaking of the campaign, there is quite a few differences between the two games. I remember being significantly disappointed that Vegas 2's locations were just a lot more dull than Vegas 1. In the original game, you were fighting in tourist locations. Fighting on Fremont Street is incredibly memorable. Vegas 2 doesn't really have any of these locations. You're fighting in people's backyards, more residential areas. This could be any city. At the time, I remember being disappointed by this, but going back and playing the campaign now, I can see why they did this. The reason is pretty simple. In Vegas 1, you have to stay very true to these buildings, and at times this could lead to frustration. Some locations simply don't lend well to gameplay. By taking Vegas 2 to the more residential areas, they could shift this however they needed be, and the maps are way better. I kind of slammed the difficulty in Vegas 1 because normal is way too easy, and realistic can kind of just be bullshit at times. You'd have BS situations like one door going into a room with 2 machine gunners shooting at you and really nothing you can do. I played Vegas 2 on realistic and it majorly toned down on the bullshit. I would say realistic is definitely the way to play this game, but it's not without fault. Occasionally, it would do the thing that Vegas 1 did where you would have one doorway to go through, not really have proper cover, and a bunch of enemies pouring down at you. Those situations feel unfair to the player, and you will die a lot in those specific choke points. However, they're simply a lot rarer than in the first game. I can really only remember one situation that was frustrating and just shouldn't have been the way it was. At least until we get to the end of the game. This is the worst boss I have seen in a really long time. Keep in mind, I have spent thousands of hours into Rainbow Six Vegas 2, but mostly into Terrorist Hunt and multiplayer. I've only beat the campaign a few times, so I didn't really remember this boss that well. Fuck this boss. At the end of the game, you are suddenly fighting against an attack helicopter. This is really out of place and seems like something more you would find in a Call of Duty game than a Rainbow Six game. But more importantly, it's bullshit. You're heavily pinned down by this helicopter, but you also have enemies pouring out at you that will lob tons of grenades at you. You can't get off that cover, the helicopter is going to instantly kill you. So you are going to die by these grenades or the helicopter over and over again. After you do a certain amount of damage to the helicopter, it will fire missiles at you. If you're not prepared for this, that's going to kill you the first time and you have to do it all over again. Okay, you get to this point again, it fires the missiles, you move, and now even more enemies pour out at you, throwing even more grenades. And they even spawn a sniper, which was something I neglected to mention up until now. Almost everything is less bullshit in Vegas 2, except snipers. Fuck snipers, we have a sniper jackal situation here. They will randomly kill you at times. Okay, not just at times, they'll randomly kill you a lot. So nice, that's another layer of bullshit shoved onto this. Once you finally do enough damage to the helicopter, this time, it flies away for a bit and allows you to go over to a small building. Apparently this building is not very good cover because they can just shoot you through solid walls. Shooting people through walls is a mechanic in Vegas 2, but it's very limited. It's also not always made clear what you can and can't shoot through. It's normally limited to plywood, but when it comes to a chain link fence, you can't shoot through the fence, but you can shoot through the poles of the fence. What? Anyway, at this point you're just sitting here and surviving long enough before a missile can come take down the helicopter. If you position yourself right, you can literally look into the enemy's clown closet and kill them as they continuously spawn. After a while the helicopter gets blown up, and that's where you get to shoot Gabe. This boss is awful. Not only is it incredibly frustrating, but again, it's just really out of place for a Rainbow Six game. The rest of this game is great. Sure, you may have a few moments that get frustrating, but for the vast majority of the time, they give you plenty of cover, you got plenty of guns to play with, plenty of rooms to clear out. It's a fun game. So this last boss is really disappointing. However, like I said in my video of Rainbow Six Vegas 1, none of this really matters because the reason you're going to be playing Vegas is for Terrorist Hunt and the multiplayer. Terrorist Hunt is still a ton of fun in Rainbow Six Vegas 2. This time around you have totally different maps. I'm still a little confused as to why they didn't bring over all of the original Vegas 1 maps and then add new maps. It's the same engine, so you'd figure they'd just port them in. I really miss LVU Campus. but there's still a lot of maps to choose from here. Again, this is where I spent most of my time playing Rainbow Six. I got good at this game because I played so much Terrorist Hunt. You can play this in co-op, so I would really advise you to get a group of friends, play it on realistic enemy difficulty with high enemy density, and try to win these maps. It's so much fun. They did change a few things. They allowed you to have some respawns, but you only respawn once on realistic difficulty and twice on normal difficulty. I'm okay with this, honestly. It punishes you and lets you actually fail without being too punishing, but I can see if you wouldn't like this. And just like in Vegas 1, the terrorists are going to scare the shit out of you.
Take him out. Get going.
Rob behind you.
Whoa! Just bounce a grenade off the door frame. Oh, shit, someone's at the bottom of the stairs.
What?
Did you just kill your own C4? Oh, he shot your C4! I can't play. Oh!
Alright, I know what's gonna happen now. Poppy tries to follow me.
Oh,
Called it!
I love this game. I can sit here and complain about the story, but honestly, Terrorist Hunt is almost perfect. I just love everything about it. I've had so much fun playing this game. And that's why it's so disappointing that Rainbow Six Siege ended up being the way it was. I know I'm not the only one that is really upset that we never ended up getting Rainbow Six Patriots. I just wanted more Rainbow Six Vegas. I don't care at all about Rainbow Six Siege. It's a good game, sure, but it's not a Rainbow Six game, and they even managed to make Terrorist Hunt feel miserable. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, fuck Siege, give us more Vegas. For those not in the know, Rainbow Six Patriots is a Rainbow Six Vegas styled game that got proposed and ultimately scrapped for the sake of Rainbow Six Siege instead. So the question now is, what one do I prefer more? Rainbow Six Vegas 1 or Vegas 2? The answer is kind of both. For the story campaign, I prefer Vegas 2, but for Terrorist Hunt and multiplayer, I prefer Vegas 1. I like the slower, more punishing playstyle for Terrorist Hunt and multiplayer, but the campaign in Vegas 1 could really be bullshit at times, and Vegas 2 is just a lot more polished. But I think that's everything. I'd like to thank all you guys that joined me over on Twitch while I was streaming this game. If you want to join me in the future, my Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos ahead of time. Same thing for my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. Thank all of you guys for showing up. I love this game. Please go play it. And I will see you next video.